Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
Welcome in, gumshoes. This is Those Were the Days, the show where we investigate classic TV and look at it through a modern magnifying glass. We're in the middle of talking about game shows, and this week we're talking about the great caper of a game show that was Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Now, I can't find her alone, so I'm going to need some help from my fellow Acme Crime Net agents. First, it's the sleuth ready to catch those crooks red handed, Travis.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, I need to find the loot, I need the warrant, and then I can catch the criminal. So this isn't like real life at all. Got it. Okay, cool. Also, remember, all geographical information is accurate as of the taping of this show.
Next, the sleuth ready to slap the cuffs on those crooks, Amy.
I'm not great at geography. And when I was in middle school, one of our assignments was we had to draw a map of the world from memory. This was a big deal. This was a huge project and we studied for it. And this is like amplified by the fact that this was like the year after the USSR broke up.
Oh, snap.
And finally, the sleuth ready to throw those crooks into the slammer, Steven.
Yo, my name is Phil the Pill. I just stole George Washington's teeth and you'll never catch me. There's no way. I'm going to a place famous for hockey, maple syrup, and nice people. Ha! If you think you're even close to figuring that out, forget about it.
I don't know how to follow that up.
And the show hit the button.
It's
Well,
over.
Steven wins the belt this week.
Yeah.
So, like we said, we're talking about the PBS game show, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? But it's hard to talk about this show without talking about the computer game that it's directly inspired by. So, my fellow sleuths, let me ask, what's your history with Carmen Sandiego? Let's start with you, Steven.
Oh man, I loved Carmen Sandiego. Like it was just the best game, and your parents will let you play it as much as you wanted because it was educational. I learned a lot about I liked where in the U.S. is Carmen Sandiego because it narrowed it down to a thing I understood. Because the world's big, like it's a big place. At least it was back in '92 or '93 or whenever I had this game. But I was big into it. I remember watching the show a little bit. I don't know that I was super into the show, but that game, I mean, I was all about it.
Nice. How about you, Amy?
I have a bunch. I have a lot. So I did play the video game. I was a fan of Where in the World. I liked the book because you had the little like micro encyclopedia that came with it so you could look stuff up because you didn't have to know everything. I feel like that was the formative part, right? You didn't have to know everything. You just had to know how to find it. And that's
Yeah.
very useful.
Yes.
I also love the show. Watching this, I found myself like I did not remember anything about this show really. Like I didn't remember any of the bits or anything, but the second they would start, I would be able to mouth along with them. So that's
Yeah.
a useful skill. And then when I was in college, when I was a sophomore, my roommate and I were orientation leaders for the incoming freshmen, mostly so that we could move into our dorm a week early. And the theme the year we did it was Where at Emerson is Carmen Sandiego, and they had rockapella. So yeah,
Nice.
me and Carmen go
Oh,
way
that's
back.
awesome.
All right. What about you, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar. I played the games, loved playing them. I definitely remember playing Where in the U.S. and Where in the World, but I know there was a few others.
Mhm.
Loved the show too. Absolutely adored the show, and very similar to Amy, where it's like I didn't recall anything, but as it started going, like especially Rockapella's songs,
Hmm.
they would start to sing the "Think About It" song, and
Mhm.
it just like immediately I knew it and I could sing along. And I remembered I definitely remembered the Greg Lee and the Chief.
Yeah.
Like that's the one of two things I know Greg Lee from. The other is his one episode of Ghost Rider that he was on.
Yeah.
But no, I loved Carmen Sandiego so much. It was a lot of fun, and at that age, I wanted to be a kid on that show so bad
Oh,
because I
yeah.
was
This
always like,
was
no,
the one I felt
I
like
could
I could
do this.
get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hmm
like
I
I
mean,
could
multiple
get through the
choice.
3 stages, but I could also like I could do the end. I could have run back and forth with those
Oh, yeah.
things and set those down in the right spot. Like I always felt like I could. So
Africa's a tough one.
Africa's a really tough
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, there's a lot of countries crammed in there.
hmm Um, yeah, and like you guys, I remember playing the games a lot. Played a ton of Where in the World and Where in the U.S. In the gifted class at school we had. We called it Discovery for whatever reason, but I definitely remember playing it a lot. I remember having the almanac. I remember my teacher always saying, "Have your notebook so you can write down the clues and stuff and remember stuff." I even played a little bit on the Wayback Machine this week and did the same thing. Um, yeah, a little bit's changed since that game came out, just a little bit.
Slightly different.
It's on the Wayback Machine?
Uh huh.
Oh, snap. All
Yeah,
right.
I found it like just on the Wikipedia page.
Well, I haven't
I
learned
got a link
anything
to it.
since 1992, so I think I should be okay.
Yeah. So a little bit about the computer game. So it was an educational video game released by Broderbund in April 23rd of 1985. And Where in the World was Carmen Sandiego was the first game in the franchise. And it was distributed with the World Almanac and Book of Facts, published by Pharaoh Books. So
Remember
in
when
the
video
game,
games would last like a decade?
Yeah.
Remember that? That
hmm
was a heck of a thing.
You had
yeah,
one game and you kept it forever.
right.
Forever.
So the game is you the player take the role of a rookie in the fictional Acme Detective Agency, tasked to track down crooks from the vile organization, the Villainous International League of Evil, who have stolen famous works from around the world. Uh, and you would do this using your knowledge of geography, aided by the almanac if you had that with you, to question witnesses or investigate clues to track down where the crook has gone. Successfully solving these crimes increases the player's rank in Acme. So once you catch a crook, your rank goes up, leading to more difficult cases, a later task to find the leader of Vile and namesake Carmen Sandiego. So the game was initially developed as a menu-driven interface for graphic-enabled computers like the Apple II. Along the way of producing it, the idea of introducing geography as part of the game and distributing the almanac with the game shifted its approach because they weren't initially thinking of it as an educational game, but because it was educational and just by playing it, it became a very successful educational tools by schools. Like that's how I played it. I played it in school all the time. Um, by 1995, over 4 million copies of this one game had been sold and established the Carmen Sandiego franchise. Um, and like we talked about, there were more games afterwards. There was Where in the World started it, Where in the USA, Where in Europe, Where in Time, and then a
Oh, yeah.
bunch of other
Oh, yeah,
ones published
time.
by
That was a
under
hard
different
one.
studios. There's even been a couple animated series of Carmen Sandiego.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
The
Didn't
Yeah.
Netflix bring it back for a minute?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the
Yep.
first one was Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? Carmen Sandiego, a Saturday morning cartoon produced by Fox in '94.
Hmm.
Um, it was a animated show with live action and CG elements. It focused on a teenage brother and sister who were working with Acme to bring down Carmen Sandiego. It lasted 4 seasons. It was interesting. As soon as I looked that up and started watching the theme song, even that one came back to me immediately. I was like, "Yep, I remember that."
Yeah, and I vaguely remember that, and I watched a thing talking about the PBS show, and they brought up the cartoon, and
Mhm.
it started playing that theme song, and I had the same thing. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
wow, this is not rockapella, but I remember this.
Uh-huh. Where on earth is Carmen Sandiego? Carmen
It was like
Sandiego.
bombastic and just
Yeah.
crazy.
So, and then yes, Netflix produced a series in 2019, just called Carmen Sandiego. It was kind of an origin story for her. So she was younger. It was geared more towards kids, but a very epic cartoon. My boys watched it for a while, and when I would, see it while they were watching it, I was pretty impressed with what they were doing. But she was definitely more of an anti-hero kind of character in
Mm.
that, especially. Um, but we're here to talk about the PBS game show.
Yeah, we are.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? It was an American half-hour children's television game show based on the computer game. It aired on PBS stations from September 30th, 91 to December 22nd, 1995, with reruns continuing to air until May 31st, 1996. A total of 295 episodes over 5 seasons were recorded. The show won 7 Daytime Emmys, a 92 Peabody Award, and then in 2001, TV Guide ranked the show at number 47 on its list of 50 greatest game shows of all time.
Yeah.
Uh, because it was one of the greatest game shows. It's funny because the show was partially created in response to results of a National Geographic survey that indicated Americans had alarmingly little knowledge of geography, with 1 in 4 being unable to locate the Soviet Union or the Pacific Ocean. And the show,
That's scary
That's
because those are
bad.
That's
not small
Mhm.
targets.
Right. That's
That
not
is
that
like
is
not
scary because
asking.
like
right.
the Pacific Ocean is half of the map,
right.
and then the
The
Soviet Union at
USSR
the
was,
time
I mean,
was
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 the other
just
half.
all
Yeah.
of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was
It's
like the northern
they're
parts.
not saying please point out Guinea-Bissau.
Right.
Mhm.
Like that's like what?
Yep.
The one I
And
knew in the Africa map, right? They were like Cameroon, and I was like, I got this one because it's shaped like a kangaroo. That was like, I can
Oh.
find that one.
nice.
Like, I got Morocco, Egypt, uh, Madagascar, South Africa, and Cameroon. That's it. That's like
Madagascar's not
everything
bad because
else is
it's the island.
over there.
Hmm.
Everything else
Somalia, I
is
always
just a
remember because
guess.
Somalia is the point of the elbow.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
think of
Yeah.
Africa like an
Yeah.
arm, Somalia is the point of the elbow. Ethiopia is right next to that. They did mention Botswana, which of course made me
There ain't
think
no
of Ernest
trees in
Scared Stupid.
Botswana.
Exactly.
So, but the show's questions were verified by National Geographic World, who also provided prizes to the contestants in the form of subscriptions to their magazine.
All right.
Now, a staff of 150 worked to produce the show. Each season was produced in 6 weeks. Typically, 3 to 4 episodes were taped each shooting day in a New York studio. Producers contacted local New York schools and considered children age 8 to 13. Entrants were required to take a geography test, and then prospective contestants who passed the test were then interviewed by producers. Um, now, following the completion of taping for the first season, there were a couple massive geopolitical changes in the world, including the
Yeah. Yeah, there
dissolution of
were.
the Soviet Union and the breakup of Yugoslavia,
Mhm.
which rendered the entire season geographically inaccurate. Which is why, starting in the second season, they had that disclaimer that aired at the closing: all geographic information was accurate at the date of this program was recorded.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's
Because
yeah.
things
It
were
was
changing
things were changing
daily.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Europe was wild in the early 90s.
Oh
Mhm.
It
man.
was, and I remember the other thing I remember from the little short documentary I watched was they had the giant maps on the floor, and there were times where they would have to change those like daily. They would have to redo
Yeah.
that map overnight to film the next day.
Yeah.
So
Or just
It was a
like in the fact
turbulent
that
time.
Yeah.
I found out playing the game, like there are countries that are not the same names as the countries they have at the time.
Mhm.
So like,
Mm.
where am I? What? Okay. Luckily, when you Wikipedia something, they've got maps, and I can know the general vicinity.
Yeah. About
All
that.
right, so let's talk about this show. So each episode was had 3 contestants, 3 kids competing. You had the main host, Greg Lee, and he was aided by Lynn Thigpen as the chief of Acme CrimeNet.
I was
Um,
so sad when she passed away. I was like,
oh yeah,
oh,
She's dead?
yeah.
2002. It was awful. She was so young,
It
and
was a
it was
What?
sudden.
just
sudden brain
Yeah.
aneurysm kind of thing,
No.
Yeah, it
like out
oh
of
god, I
nowhere.
was
So,
devastated.
so I knew her after this show. I saw her on this show called The District, which was a TV cop drama with Craig T. Nelson as the new chief of police for Washington D.C. And she was like his assistant or something in there. And she was just like one of those pivotal characters. I was like, the chief. Why is she not the chief? She's the chief.
She's the chief.
Yeah.
Um,
She must be
she
undercover.
also, for those of you who remember Bear in the Big Blue House, she was the voice
Yeah.
of Luna, the moon.
Mhm.
What?
When she died in the middle of them doing that show and trying to get a movie made, and basically everybody was like, "We lost." She was one of the hearts of the show. We can't do it anymore. Like it
Yeah.
just destroyed everybody.
And
So,
before this, she did like Broadway. Like she
oh
was in the
yeah,
movie of Godspell.
hmm
Hmm.
And
she made a lot of
she's
movies. Like
amazing.
I've seen several just randomly on TikTok. Some of her movies come up, and she's not always a good guy in them, and she can
No.
act the heck out of some stuff. She is
Mhm.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, but her's the chief. I mean, come on,
So good.
She's
Pivotal.
so good
I
at
forgot
that
how
banging
role.
it
much
up.
kayfabe was in this show. Like
Hmm
Hmm.
when they get to like the second part and they show up with suitcases or the end, yeah, I was like, wait, what?
hmm
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
totally forgot about that.
Yep.
Okay.
And
And
I
then,
guess like Lynn Thigpen was their first choice for the chief, but she was reluctant to do it because they wanted to film 65 episodes in 6 weeks.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would
she
be
rocks it
reluctant
I mean,
too.
I don't blame her.
well,
Yeah.
especially with her dialogue,
Oh
right?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because she was the one that had all kinds of alliteration and rhyming schemes and stuff, and
Mm.
she nailed them every time.
She was so good. I was watching the show like I said very quickly before we did this show. But on my phone, so Stephanie was in the kitchen, we were cleaning the kitchen, and I was just like, this woman's voice lives rent free in my brain. Like as soon as she started talking, I was like,
Mhm.
Hmm
oh my gosh, I remembered this. Like, boosh, it just all flashed in front of my eyes. I was like, oh crap, I know what this
Right.
show is now. I remember
Mhm.
this. Yeah.
Especially with her intonation to be the chief.
Yes. Yeah, I was all
Mhm.
Jurassic Park. It's a Unix system. I know this.
um, and then there were also various actors here and there playing different roles, either coming on set and being some kind of character, um, like the dying informant or something,
Mhm.
um,
Yes.
and also doing the voices of the various crooks. Um,
I had completely forgotten about the crooks. Forgotten that 100%. And then I was like, "Oh no.
mhm,
This is coming back to me."
yeah,
It just
with
slowly
their
like works its way back.
Oh
I'm
no.
accessing
Like,
part of my
like
brain I haven't seen in years.
These weird leisure suit like Harry
uh
characters.
huh,
Oh
and
man.
then
Vic the
which
Slick.
which yeah, which apparently the animation for that was done. They had a small budget for animation, so they did all of it on Apple II computers. Um, but they didn't have a way to digitize the art, so apparently they would just fax pictures and then scan those in.
Oh, that's amazing.
wow,
It definitely
yeah,
looked like something I could have drawn with Kid Pix. You guys remember Kid
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pix?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's
yeah,
great
it looked a
stuff.
lot
but
like that.
but it still worked. Like they made it
Yeah.
work so
Mhm.
well.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
Like
it was so good.
like the whole art production of the whole thing was amazing and
It was
how it worked
wonderful.
together. And then last but not least, but we'll talk about them a little bit later, the house band for
Yeah.
Rockapella. Um, and here's where my memory failed me. I did not remember that the theme song came at the end.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
I watched several. I was trying to watch several episodes. I was like, dang, did they just cut out the theme song or something? Is
Nope.
YouTube trying to demonetize this or what's going on? And then I watched the episode, and at the end, I was like, oh wait, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah, it's at the
okay.
end.
Now that core memory goes because you
Pops right
gotta
back up.
sing and get everybody, all the kids down to sing with you.
I just love those
Yeah.
guys because like one of the dudes looked like Ron Perlman and the other one of the dudes looked like Boy George. And Ron
hmm
Perlman,
Yeah.
like Kmart Ron Perlman, had a raccoon tail hanging off the back of his head, and I was just,
Oh yeah.
I was all for that. Like I'm in. Bring this
hmm
band back
Yeah.
for a reunion world tour, and I'm on it. Like we'd have to guess where they're going based on certain clues, but
Right.
we we would find them.
Yep.
Waco.
Yes.
I So that was the best part. If you didn't watch the specific episode that we did, they for their like basically their like Final Jeopardy version, right? They got to bid an amount of their dollars
Mhm.
and answer a question. And they show you what region they're going to be asking about
Mm-hmm.
first, which was very good.
Hmm.
Yes.
I would not have wagered much. That is not an area of my expertise. And it was Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. And so one of the clues, like one of the things that they mentioned in the clue was Waco. And only one of them got it right. And so then I had to go look. And this episode aired in 1991, and Waco was in 1993. And I went, okay, all right.
Oh wow, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waco was nothing until that whole thing
Okay.
went down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yep. So we actually watched the first episode that ever aired of Carmen Sandiego, and you can tell by some of the bits
Yep.
that they do, and that gets changed later on. Um, so in this episode, it starts out with Vic the Slick, and he steals the Mona Lisa. So
Big
we
crime
start,
for a first episode.
Yeah, it's a good
Uh-huh.
crime. Yeah.
yeah, because Mona Lisa, everybody knows Mona Lisa.
Hmm.
Um, so we start out with the first round, which is the main bulk of the show. Um, all three of the gumshoes start out with 50 crime bucks, which is their point system. And then they basically compete in various questions, geographical questions to earn crime bucks. Um, and the one thing that I remember about the show and that struck me is just how low tech it was.
I had totally forgotten about the cards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Completely forgotten until I like they turn around and they're like this, and I was like,
And
Yep, and they just had the little slot to put them down in
Yeah.
yep.
afterwards, and
right.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much you didn't see talked, like how much they cut out of them telling them, okay, now this question is this color
Well, it looked
card.
Mhm.
like they had like almost like a index card box, but for the big
Mm-hmm.
long cards. And then because each question was a different color,
Right.
so I
Mm.
feel like there's somebody standing behind Greg,
Mm-hmm.
holding up
yeah,
the color card.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
It's hard
those
to
were
imagine people existing outside camera, but you're probably
Mhm.
right. Like that is
Yeah.
happening. Someone's over there going yellow.
Mm-hmm.
but you say that, but later seasons of the show would show behind camera a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It like expanded, and they started because you would see the audience, and they would even have like the chase
Mhm.
was a segment that got added, and like Greg would chase a member of Rockapella through the studio.
Mm-hmm.
That.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Ah.
Yep. So each round of questions begins with a clue. The chief starts us off talking about where Vic the Slick is headed. One of the clues is the birthplace of the Renaissance. And she gives us one of the most timeliest jokes that I was just
Uh,
my heart was
it was
just, oh
so
yeah,
good.
talking about, okay, so the Mona Lisa painted by Leonardo da Vinci, and then she talked about Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello also, beginning the Renaissance. But it's their recent decision to become Ninja Turtles has initially been controversial, but now another indication of their genius.
So
Loved it.
here's a confession from my childhood. Uh when we were in elementary school, the art books by the great masters suddenly became very popular in
Mm,
the library.
Hmm.
mhm.
And so everyone was
Hmm.
very excited. Teachers were all very excited. They thought that the Ninja Turtles had made us interested in art, but someone had discovered that there were naked people in there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ban
that's
that
kind of like
book.
Boy, times they get
Nudes.
better, don't they? Things
Yeah.
get better, don't they?
Mhm.
No.
That's
I
what
will
it's
I will
always
Oh,
contend until the day I die that children have been the same since we crawled out of the muck.
Yep.
Not changed
yeah.
a bit.
No. No.
the thing about that joke though in this episode was when she started talking, I did not expect that was where
Mm-mm.
the
No.
line
Not at
was going
all.
to go, and then it veered in that direction, and it was just it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so
Hmm.
well and perfectly delivered.
Hmm.
Killed me.
Yep. So right after that clue, they decide that this is the time to introduce us to the detectives. And I don't think this bit lasted long because later on they are introduced with their hobbies and stuff as they're being named to come into the
Yeah.
show. Like they don't
Yeah.
get time to talk about it because
It's better that way.
this
Yes,
part I was like, okay,
don't let
wow,
children talk
okay.
freely on
No,
TV.
off script, don't.
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah, because we
'Cause-
had Jason he likes to go fishing. He likes
Mhm.
fishing because he goes
Mhm.
fishing with his dad. His
Yeah.
dad's got a boat. And they go fishing,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and then he wants to be an astronomer.
Great.
Yeah.
A+ kid.
Great
Then we have
answer.
Jay, who's played soccer forever,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants to be a lawyer. And they're like, "Well, why do you want to be a lawyer?" Because I want to put people in jail.
Yeah.
With a big old grin on his face. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Good job, Jay.
Yep.
Mom and
we
dad
have Lisa.
immediately went, "Oh God, you said it."
Mm-hmm.
And on it, like he looked like the kid that would volunteer to be the hall monitor.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
That's a
So-
That kid
particular
from
type of
Recess,
kid.
that wormy kid. Remember the old show Recess?
Yeah.
There's that wormy kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Coach,
then
I
we
think
had
it would be
Lisa.
fun to run some laps today, don't you? You know, he's that guy.
You said we were supposed to make up that test today.
Oh gosh. Or wakes up the substitute when she fell asleep. Like, forget you, kid.
We had that problem in my English class in high school. Like we were all behind on the reading.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like an English lit class. We were all behind in the reading, and one of our friends, like he was in our friend group, and he goes, "Well, nobody," or he'd been asked a question and he didn't know the answer because we were all behind in the reading, and he ratted us out and said, "Well, nobody knows."
Jerk.
Everybody's behind.
Thanks, Jay.
Rude.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Rude.
You suck, Jay.
And then finally, we had Risa, who's been playing piano forever and wants to be a broadcast journalist. So
Sideways
Good luck.
ponytail. Rocking the
Yeah.
sideways ponytail.
Mhm.
now, I just got to point out at this point, costuming on this show, everybody is in the most brightest
Mhm.
costumes, whatever it is. For those of you not watching us live on Twitch, you can see Steven showing us what this was like with his nice red fedora, like bright
Mhm.
red fedora.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was the sleuths were in red and yellow and blue jackets. Greg Lee was always in a bright blue something.
Yeah.
It was a 1950s newsroom, but with
Mhm.
color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all Dick Tracy colored, basically.
Yeah.
Rockapella, same thing. Even with their crazy hair, they were still rocking 50s clothes, which was great, just delightful. So the second clue, and I forgot about stuff like this, where the whatever was stolen has a voice. So Mona Lisa's on the phone asking Greg, "When are you gonna rescue me?" In the
When
most
are you gonna rescue me?
yeah stereotypical
Oh,
Italian
that was
accent, and it was beautiful.
very good.
Needed more of that in the Mario movie, didn't we? Come on.
I don't know. I like the way they handled it in the Mario movie. That was fine.
I agreed. I'm just giving it a hard
Um,
time because that's what
the
we do.
third clue was the dying informant Scott,
Man.
which was just like, okay, we'll just run with this. So he just goes in there and dies, and then
The
Greg keeps.
scooting over to get into the chalk outline was very good.
It's
I
great.
appreciated that a
Uh-huh.
lot.
And him giving his final answer and dying, and then Greg like, I need more. He's like, okay, here we go. Like, felt like Yoda, who kept
Yeah,
saying stuff to
yeah.
Luke before he finally became one with the Force.
Yeah.
Um, then we had the random lightning round to earn 5 crime bucks.
No cards, got a buzz.
Yeah, no
Oh,
cards. You
yeah.
got a buzzer for that one. And then after this, the chief was like, "Hey, we gotta catch this guy. I tell you what, we catch this guy, you catch Carmen, we'll give you a trip to anywhere in the United States." Till Greg whispers in her ear that the budget is might be not quite so good for that. She's like, "Okay, lower 48 states."
I remember not knowing for the longest time what the lower 48 states were. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I don't understand what that means.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
I mean,
understand.
because 48 states are kind of above latitudinally Hawaii,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you have to know
The
that much too.
contiguous United States.
Contiguous is
There
the
you
word.
go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clue number 4, we got the Acme bug net, which is when they managed to bug a telephone call
I feel
between
like
Carmen Sandiego and the crook.
but we don't have a warrant yet.
And they got a
I-
warrant for the phone call somehow.
Apparently. I mean, we have video footage of him stealing it.
Mhm.
Surely this should be enough. We saw it happen.
Yeah, we actually
watched.
got it. We know it was him.
Yep.
But you still have to say allegedly until convicted.
Allegedly.
He allegedly stole it while you watch the video of him stealing it.
Right.
Right.
Well, she screamed for help.
Yes.
Then we had clue number 5, which as a kid I wouldn't have known and given two craps about, but right now I super appreciate that Walter Cronkite was on here.
Mhm.
Right? Yes. Uncle Walt.
From the Acme CelebNet. It's always Acme
Oh,
something.
and
net.
what was his sign off? Remember, like, so no something, no romancing, and like something else. It was
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
very
yeah.
No
And I was
salty
like,
dancing or
interesting.
something
I
because
didn't.
the
we-
dance was part of the clue.
oh
Mm.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that yeah. But I was like, all right, Walter Cronkite, cool.
Yeah.
It's
Like
good.
it was
It's
like,
good get
okay,
for your premiere episode.
No
good
joke.
get. Old man doesn't want us to have fun. Thanks.
Yeah.
Clue number 6 was done by our very own Rockapella
hmm
singing for us, which was
Mhm.
just good to hear.
They're
It was
so
By the way,
good.
okay, so that song,
Yep.
that song was basically the song that got them on Where in the World is Carmen
Yeah.
Sandiego. They were in a documentary about music done by Spike Lee,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the song they did in the documentary. And the guy that was producing the show was watching it, and his wife was like, "You should get them on your show." And so he pursued them because they were in New York.
We
Yep.
loved a cappella music in the 90s.
Mhm.
We were all about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. You guys think the pentatonics is like a new thing? Like, whatever.
Right.
You weren't there for Rockapella.
Mm-mm.
Boys to Men.
Oh, Boys to
exactly.
Men. Yeah.
all for
You-
one.
All
Oh
for
my
one.
gosh.
Yeah. Oh man. Now you're sitting. Now you're speaking my language.
All right, and then we came to the final clue. Now, this one was different because this is where you can risk crime bucks. Notice they didn't say bet or wager; they
No,
just
no.
said
Yeah.
risk.
Risk.
So you could risk up to all of your crime bucks, like Amy was talking about earlier. They gave you a general clue about where they were going to be, and you had to wager how much you were going to know where that was. Um, and this was the point where it was another Rockapella song that as soon as they started singing, I was like,
Yep.
yep, remember that. Because, like, how much you gonna risk? Bada-boom, bada-boom.
Man,
And
they
then
were
the
good.
Which apparently will play in my head, and I didn't realize what it was because then they started singing it. And I was like, I just heard that not that long ago.
Yeah.
I
Oh, it's
was
gonna come back
betting on
now.
that baseball game. I was hearing that in my head. I don't know.
The chief gets a fax. We get the clue.
You know,
Yeah.
faxes, kids were
Mhm.
it was a time. And
Yeah.
if you have to do anything with the government, even today in the year of our Lord 2023, you will still have to fax them.
Yeah.
You
I
can't,
have
like,
faxed in
do it with your- do it with
SF86
your
in the
phone.
last 10 years.
Yeah.
At a Staples.
Yeah, we charge a lot of money for that. It's
I
not great.
No, it was stupid, but that's what they
I
wanted.
almost until I worked for Jerry's Artorama in North Carolina, I could count on one hand how many times I used a fax machine. But they use faxing for every corporate store and school to send in orders. For some reason, that was the
Amazing.
way it was supposed to be done. So I became well acquainted with the fax machine at that point.
They're awful.
Yeah, it's not good.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't
Now you
forget
get
your
the app
cover
on your
sheets.
phone.
Page
Nope.
1 of
Ugh.
7. Put that
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Um, and then I appreciate even on the first episode, we still have to deal with a tiebreaker because only two people can go on to the next round.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So they had another like, here's a bunch of questions. Let's see if you can guess the place. And this is where we lost. Who do we lose? Jay.
Jay, and his face, there was no, he did not have the Oscar loser face. Like he made no
Nope.
secret that because he had been in the lead for a lot of it. and
Yes.
he did not feel that this was fair, and
Well,
I laughed a little.
you could see on his face the second he gave his answer and it was wrong.
Colorado.
He
Mhm.
And
knew
they
it
were
was
like,
wrong,
"No."
and he was like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
and then he was very upset.
I was kind of sad that the kid who said 20 but showed 10 is the one who
Yeah.
got to go. I'm like, we can't even, his numbers are wrong. But then, you know, it's
Yeah, there's
fine.
no square one, it's fine.
But
Yeah.
Jay was also like the most I'm going to put people in jail kid, you know? So I was kind of
Yeah.
also felt like,
Right.
ha, stick it to the man. Take that,
Yeah.
Jay.
So he got third place. His prize was an Acme travel kit with
Mhm.
an atlas, a watch, a sweatshirt, and a subscription to National Geographic World Magazine.
Heck yeah.
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah.
Man, the things I would have done for a sweatshirt in 1993.
Mhm.
Been
Oh, that
like,
National Geographic magazine would
nice.
have been my jam.
Yep. So the next is round 2. The 2 remaining gumshoes move on, and it's funny this part of the game considering concentration last week.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I was just
Yeah.
gonna
It's
say.
really
Yeah.
good.
Because it's basically at this point they play a memory game
Mhm.
that deals with locations from the place the crook is supposed to be at. Um, but they have to do it in a specific order when they are uncovering things. So they say location on the board, it flips over, and it gives them some footsteps or one of 3 things, which they have to recover in this specific order. They have to find the loot, they have to get the warrant,
The
and,
warrant.
and then the crook. Um, and whoever catches the crook is the winner of this round. And I couldn't believe that Risa fumbled this
Oh,
one.
I
She
felt
fumbled
so
it
bad
so
for
Oh.
her.
hard. Because
She was,
she got the other 2, and I was like, "Yeah, go!"
yeah.
And then she
Well, she is the one that guessed
Mhm.
got Vic the
She
slip
found it in the
to
first
begin with.
place.
She remembered the
Ah,
location of it on the board, but not
on
the
the board, and
actual
then she
place.
choked.
And what was
Mhm.
blew my mind is it was like a long rectangular piece.
And
Right.
Right.
it was basically when the chief was giving the rundown of the locations that they were gonna be visiting in lovely Dallas, um,
The Cotton Bowl
uh
Stadium.
well, because 'cause she'd said that Vic liked crowds, and he was going to find them
Mm-hmm.
at the Cotton Bowl Stadium,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and that's
Mhm.
where he was.
Yeah.
I was so upset.
It hurt my feelings so bad.
Yeah.
She
I
would have
did
choked
watch
on Africa too, though.
Yeah, no
True.
problem.
Yeah.
I did watch another episode where the kid got it in 3.
Oh.
Holy cow.
Oh,
He managed
that's
he
just
gets it, and like
luck.
Greg was blown away by
Yeah.
it. He's like, "I can't believe that just happened."
Yeah.
And like in the comments for the video, somebody did the math and it was like, I want to say like 1 in almost 3,000 chance or something of being
Sure,
able to
Yeah.
pull that off. And he
because
did
Yeah.
it's
just
just
he's
random. There's no like, I mean, you
Mhm.
gotta
Mhm.
remember once you find them, but otherwise it's
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
dumb luck.
crazy.
This
Yep.
is like the kids version of the Showcase Showdown, like guessing on the
Yeah.
exact price.
Yep.
Also,
Impossible.
I love how as they're flipping the stuff back and forth, you've got
Mhm.
Rockapella singing everything.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
my favorite part of that is, they're just off camera singing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't have
Mhm.
like a soundboard and just keep playing it over and over. Like every time they
No.
say the warrant, it's the 4 of them singing in harmony. The
The
warrant.
warrant.
They said something at one point, I don't remember what it was, but it did make Greg laugh. Because it was like
Yeah.
something about like there wasn't anything there or whatever, and they
Oh,
did
yeah.
something and
Mhm.
did make Greg laugh, and that was good.
So Risa goes home with a world band radio.
A world bit. She can listen to
Yeah.
radio from anywhere in the world.
See,
Where the
since
frequency hits.
radio is this thing where you would listen to music on this little box,
You know,
had
like
an
sometimes in
antenna,
your car, if you forget your aux cable, um,
There's stuff playing.
or don't have
there's like
satellite radio.
sound.
You don't have any
Um,
Radio.
choice over what's playing, but it plays at you.
It plays.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
all right.
Honestly, I would have loved to have gotten a world band radio though. Like
Right?
that's
Heck
such a
yeah.
cool prize to get because they get the first set of prizes plus that world band radio.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think later on, I want to say they also would occasionally get like a translator, like a little pocket
Oh
translator.
yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm all right with
So,
that.
all right. So, our guy Jason Since he's left, he goes on to the bonus round. Now, before he goes, Greg gives him a little portfolio thing and he writes down the location of the prize place that he wants
Yeah,
to
if he
travel
wins.
to
hmm
in the contiguous 48 states. Again, we get Rockapella singing to us, "Where do you want to go?" Oh. Um, and you only find out this location if the person actually wins.
Yeah.
See, that's a bummer. I want to do it like they do a Wheel of Fortune where they open the car. They're like, "Oh, too bad, so sad. You didn't win the car or the
Yeah.
$100,000 or whatever." Like, it'd be cool just to
Mhm.
know where's a kid write down they want to go.
That's what I'm
Who?
saying. Like, I'm trying to do the like, what? I don't know where I would go now. Like,
No.
like
All I can think
You
of is
got to
like
think
I
too.
don't know.
Disney World every time. They just wrote it down. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and these are all kids from New York, right? So
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
like they're not going to be saying New York or
Right.
No.
probably not going to be saying Boston,
Right.
right?
Yeah. No, New England straight out.
San
Mhm.
Antonio. That's where I want to. No. They're all going to Orlando, Florida. That's where they
Yeah.
see on Nickelodeon
Yeah.
when people win
That's
things.
true.
It's all in
Mhm.
Orlando,
Yeah.
Florida. So they're going to be like, Orlando's where the Rugrats are or whatever. I'm going.
Mhm.
91, they weren't any Rugrats, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
we
There
had a
was other stuff at
Nickelodeon.
the time.
You
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't
there
know
was
that
Nickelodeon.
once you get there,
You would
if
go
you
watch
don't
all
have any
that or
money,
something.
you're not doing
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
send you
You
there.
can go
Good
to the
luck.
Gator Farm. That's
Gator
about it.
Farm, i.e., grandma's
Mhm.
backyard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so the bonus round. The crook lets you know where Carmen is because they are
Because they're
vindictive.
all
He's a
snitches.
snitch. Snitches
Mhm.
get stitches, Vic the Slick.
So they tell you the continent, um, or country if it's like they would do the U.S. Then the chief briefs you on that place and all the possible countries to find Carmen. The gumshoe has 45 seconds to identify 7 in season 1.
Yep.
Then they bumped it up to 8 in season 2. From then on, countries or states. Um, and how they would do it is Greg would call it out, and they would take this pole that had a police siren thing on top of it. Um, and if they got it right, the siren and light goes off. Pooh. You get it wrong, and you'd have to try one more time. Get get it wrong twice, you come back and try for a new one. If you succeed in identifying all 7, 8 within that 45 seconds, you have caught Carmen Sandiego and you win their trip.
Heck
If you
yeah.
don't, you simply get your consolation prize.
this
Um,
this game is almost impossible. You
It's
know,
really hard
it's
mhm,
really hard.
because the perspective is just like, even if you were like, if you were doing it on a map, that's
Yeah.
one thing. But
mhm.
you are on the map
A
Yeah.
giant floor map
and you have to
that
run.
you're mostly looking at upside down from where you
Right.
would normally
Yes.
see it.
Yeah, you're not oriented the way you want. You've got like a gymnasium full of kids screaming while you're doing this,
Yeah.
and some guy yelling words at you that you may or may not have ever heard before.
Mhm.
And
Um,
it's a
and you've got to run
massive
back and forth.
it's a massive map and you have less than 7 seconds per
Each.
per
Yeah.
thing to
Yeah.
get there, put it down and get back. And unless you know exactly where you're going, and also let's not forget, you're going to have to drop this on some really tiny little spaces. Like, I don't care how big you make the map, Rhode Island's always going to be little.
It's real
You
small.
got to really just get it
Mhm.
in the right spot. I don't know how they do that. I don't. Maybe it's probably
I'm sure
somebody
it's
just
all
going, they
manual.
got it close, burnt. Yeah.
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 So unfortunately, we did not catch Carmen Sandiego in this
I
episode.
know. He got
Guinea
3 though.
Bissau, wherever the
Guinea
devil that is.
Wow. It's
I
on
know
You
they
that
know.
still call it that
edge.
now.
No,
But he
it's
got
fine.
a portable CD player.
Those
Mhm.
headphones.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
had
those
a
headphones
I
were.
had I had
Mhm.
like physical memory of those headphones.
You could
Yeah.
feel them on your ears
Yeah.
when you see
Yeah.
Oh
them.
yeah,
You're like,
Because
definitely.
it was like a millimeter's worth of foam
Yeah.
that had no
Yeah.
structural integrity whatsoever, so it
None.
was
Mhm.
completely worthless.
yeah.
With
And
just a strip of metal across
The
the top.
wire.
the
Yeah.
the wire, and it would grab your hair
Yeah.
where it
In the
met the
Yes.
little
plastic
adjustment.
in the adjustment things
Mhm.
always.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But
Um,
portable CD player.
Portable
and
Yeah.
CDs
CD
from around the
player.
world.
CDs from around the world.
Yeah.
They don't say how many though. Just
No.
a selection of CDs from around the world.
Yeah,
One of them was though the Rockapella "Where in the World is Carmen
Of course
Sandiego"
it
soundtrack.
was.
of course.
I mean, I'd listen to that.
Yep.
Oh.
Speaking of, at this point in the show, the last thing they have to do is yell out, "Do it, Rockapella!"
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they
Right. He's
finally
like, you
come
know what to
on.
do. And I was like, I do. I do actually know what to do, Greg. I'm prepared for this moment.
And then Rockapella does their thing and sings, "Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?" Now, the song was actually written by co-founder Sean Altman and David Yazbek, who is a prominent writer, musician, composer, and lyricist, who happens to have been high school friends with Altman. So, because I remember seeing those two names, I was like, Sean Altman, co-founder. It's like, and then David Yazbek was like, okay, who's that? And then it's like, okay, he's done all this stuff, written a bunch of musicals. Oh, and he's high school buddies. Okay, that makes sense. Um, and they did a heck of a job because it's probably the most recognizable thing from this entire franchise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like I said, I didn't really watch the show that much. I still sing that little "Where in the world is every
Mm-hmm.
time someone talks about it. It
Yep.
just it's
Mhm.
in there, and I think even if
There,
you've never watched the dang show, you probably have heard it before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
not only that, but like Rhett and Link on Good Mythical Morning will use that melody for one of their games where they'll do "Where in the world does this whatever thing come from?"
Yeah,
Nice.
And like they totally just ripped off that melody for it. So there are generations
yeah.
of people that watch Rhett and Link that don't even realize where that came from.
And the
Mm-hmm.
Today
So
Show
you know
used to
they
do
watch
it.
it. Girl.
Today Show used to send Matt Lauer out somewhere once a year, and it was "Where in the world is Matt Lauer? Baby prison." I
Yep.
don't know. Just keep going.
That's a whole nother show.
Ah.
Email
Yeah,
us.
and for those of you who watched the show and never listened to the song outside of the show, there is more to the song than what they have
Mhm.
singing over the credits at the end, because there's like an
Mhm.
extra bit. So like the one that you actually heard is like a minute 40, a minute 50, and then the full song is like 2.5 minutes long. So there's some extra stuff in there, and it's very good. So if you haven't heard it before, go for it. We'll probably put a link up on the uh,
Oh yeah.
Twitter or something for you. We'll put a link up for the Wayback Machine link too. So if you want to give a try at playing "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego," you can do that.
Yeah.
Um, which brings me to this. Did we get any feedback this week?
We did. I got some live feedback because I was in a meeting today and I was like, we had some idle time, and I said, "Hey, you guys remember Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?" And a fellow I know by the name of Drew did fondly remember playing the DOS game constantly. Had very fond memories of that, and at least one other guy who didn't get on the microphone and say anything was like, "Yeah," and nodded a lot.
We also did get a reply on Twitter from Ross McKinney, who said, "I love the show on PBS, but what was real fun were the video games when I was a kid. I remember my
Mm.
school had several in the early '90s on the computer lab computers. Spent many hours playing them." Yep,
Mhm.
same Ross.
Yep.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to give us some feedback, let us know your history with Carmen Sandiego and the whole franchise. You can hit us up on Twitter at Those Days Show. You can email us, thosewerethedayshow@gmail.com. But yeah, that that's Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
Mm-hmm.
So next week, Steven, what is your pick for game shows?
Oh boy, I need you to go ahead and take some steroids and do some push-ups because we're watching American Gladiators. And
Yeah.
we're going to kick it off by not kicking it off at all, by getting all the way to the end of the first season to the finals. So we're going to skip all the maybe you don't, maybe you may. We're going to put some real skin in the game there in the
Nice.
finals of season 1. So if you go to PlutoTV, you can find American Gladiators, and you will find the preliminaries, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, go down to the finals of that first. I don't know if they called them seasons. We'll find out, but you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pumped.
Excellent.
Yep.
Oh, can't wait.
And
It's
and again, let us know your thoughts and memories about American Gladiators. Did you watch it? Did you get sucked in?
Mhm.
Did you want to play that tennis ball game where they were shooting at you and you tried to get the gladiator on the
Assault.
big
Boom,
thing?
boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like you could take out Nitro on the cotton swab battle thing?
Mhm,
Joust. What was that?
mhm.
Is that called
I like
Joust? I don't
Joust.
remember.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yep.
so. I always
Cotton
wanted to try
swab
it, for
battle
sure.
is a better name for it for me.
Yeah.
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 So,
So excited.
but thank you all who listen to the podcast. Thank you to all of us who join us in the live chat on Twitch Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/2dorkstv. We always appreciate you all hanging out with us, sharing your thoughts and everything. So until next week, and American Gladiators. For Amy, Steven, and Travis, this is Audie from Those Were the Days, reminding you that our minds are strong, our spirits are pure. When crime's the sickness, we are the cure. Bye, everybody.
Remember again, all geographical information was accurate as of the taping of this show.
Guys, I'm learning a lot about